The All-Star Game reserves were announced last night, and while all the names called have significant star power and All-Star Game experience, there was one player left off that list, Damian Lillard. Following in the All-Star snub footsteps that Steph Curry endured in 2013, Damian Lillard's play this year certainly deserves consideration. In order for this to be a true snub, however, someone less deserving needed to be taken ahead of Lillard. Upon examining the list of All-Star reserves at the guard spot, Klay Thompson is having a phenomenal breakout year, James Harden has been carrying his team and a true MVP favorite, Chris Paul has been his usual stellar point guard self. So that brings us to Russell Westbrook, a guard that battled injuries early this season, missed 14 games, and has been desperately trying to get his team back into the playoff mix. There is no denying his sheer talent and inhuman athletic ability. He makes plays on the basketball court that few humans can dream of making. So let's take a deep dive into the comparisons between Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook to find out who is really having the All-Star season and deserves to be in New York representing the Western Conference. Starting out with the synergy numbers, we see a pretty startling difference across the board. Overall, Lillard is way ahead of him in percentile, generating points for his team in a much more efficient manner. Amongst guards, Lillard is ranked 13th overall, while Russ is 44th, and their effective field goal percentage is a big reason why. If we isolate only half-court possessions, the difference is even wider, as Russ struggles mightily to shoot well. As the shot clock winds down under 4 seconds and their team needs a hero shot, Lillard actually does this more often than Russ and is among the elite at his position, while Russ is below average. If we factor in points plus assists, a good barometer for overall point guard play, Lillard is in the 93rd percentile, assisting on more possessions overall than Russ, as well as from the coveted three-point area. Let's shift to some SportView stats to evaluate other point guard skills. Lillard and Westbrook are almost identical in the number of drives per game, as well as points off of those drives. However, when you factor how many points the team scores off those drives, Lillard leads this by over 1 full point. Going by the traditional box score, there are some differences. Russ has been playing less minutes per game, but that will surely change going forward. He's already over 35 minutes per game the last 10 games. While Lillard is almost 1 percentage point better in field goal percentage overall, his three-point shooting and true shooting percentage give him a decided advantage. Westbrook is not a very good finisher at the rim, and if we look at his percentage versus the league average, his field goal percentage is well below league average all the way out to 6 feet from the hoop. Lillard, on the other hand, is just above average until 4 feet. From 5 to 8 feet out, Russ does shoot better than Lillard, but neither of these players shoot many from that distance. Both players are similar from 8 feet out till 21 feet, but that's when Russ drops off and Lillard's frequency and percentage jump. As a value to their teams, we can compare their offensive, defensive, and net ratings, and you can see Lillard has a decided advantage, making his team better while he's on the court. There are some stats where Russ has an advantage. He grabs more rebounds, nabs a lot more steals, and dishes more assists, which are surely things in his favor. But those are balanced out with a whole lot more turnovers and a worse assist-to-turnover ratio. Due to his circumstances on the Thunder, Russ has a crazy high usage percentage, which becomes a problem when his bad plays begin to balance out the good. Now let's look at how Synergy breaks out their individual categories. In pick-and-roll ball handler, Lillard is much more efficient, whereas better shooting at the rim help him. That said, when you look at derived offense from the pick-and-roll, which includes passes, these two players are much closer, with Lillard still having a slight edge. In transition, Russ tends to get going way too fast and be out of control on his finishes, whereas Lillard is rated much higher, shoots better, and turns it over a lot less. Russ averages an astounding 7 transition possessions a game. No one else in the league is above 6 per game. Of the 19 players who have used at least 150 possessions in transition, he ranks 12th, so it might be a good suggestion to slow it down just a little bit. Isolation is a big part of both of these players' games, and again, Lillard is much more efficient across the board, being able to use his own athletic gifts and clever shot making to finish at a much higher rate than Russ. Where Lillard benefits from a better offensive team system is in the spot-up category, where he has the biggest lead over Russ. By utilizing ball movement to kick out to Lillard, the Blazers have made him a lethal assassin. While OKC's offense tends to stagnate and leads to much more difficult spot-up opportunities for all of its players, Russ included. On jump shots overall, it's not even close to a comparison, and while Lillard is exactly league average around the basket, Russ is only halfway there. If you look at our own metrics designed by Arturo Galletti, we can see that Lillard more routinely outdoes his counterpart in all the box score metrics. He doubles Russ in PM wins, which measures wins produced based on his plus-minus. His salary compared to win production is much more valuable, and his MVP score is almost double Westbrook's. This was quite a bit to process, and perhaps you'll need to watch this more than once to understand the point we're making. Sometimes there are agonizing decisions over whether to choose one player over another for the All-Star game because their production is so close. But I think we've made it clear that there really is no justification for choosing Russell Westbrook over Damian Lillard for the All-Star game. Certainly just about every metric makes that clear, and I can assure you from an eye test, Lillard is a bad man who should be on that team. And don't forget, sports fans, if you disagree with this analysis, I'm just here so I don't get fined.